Hi, welcome to the Pilgrims Story Hour. I'm happy to be here sharing Pilgrim stories with you episode. What I'd like to do is share experience for pilgrimage on the Camino and El. The Camino is filled with all kinds of different animals and dogs, especially and cats that you will see. So, and goats and sheep, farmland that you walk through. And so, what I would like to share with you today, and I'm going to here, have with a dog that Alberto and I met when we were walking in Turkey. Now, it had been about, and we had arrived to be in a very different culture than the before, accustomed to a new language, new experiences, new. And we noticed right away there were a lot of strays. Not that that was, particularly unusual, stray dogs, stray animals in our journey, as just another part of the experience of being in this country. And we had gotten into the habit, we were now in July, this is in July, and we had gotten into the habit of getting up at around 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning so that we could avoid the Turkish heat, because it was so hot by the time it was 10 o'clock that we knew we had to finish walking by 10. So we were in the habit of getting up around 4 and starting to walk very quickly, trying to arrive to the next destination. Well, on one such morning, we had just walked for about an hour, hour and a half. We didn't really have any breakfast because nothing was open at that time. And we said, let's stop at the first thing that we see that's open and grab a bite to eat and take a rest. It happened to be a gas station. And it was a Shell gas station. It's like, oh, Shell. Just like, the Camino. We'll take that as a good sign. Let's go and find if the secret they're open and let's see what they have. And as we're walking in, it's very quiet. There's only one gentleman sitting on a white plastic chair at the entrance of the little store attached to the gas station, and a dog that is at its feet. And that dog was I think it was a beagle. It wasn't very big. It only had patches of hair on it. It didn't have a full coat of hair. And the skin that was there, that you could see very clearly, had some scabs and some parts that were still bleeding a little. And I thought, ooh, that's probably one of those strays. I don't think that's the owner. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to take the long way around this dog and just come into the store. And the dog the whole time was just kind of looking at us. It was very furtive, very nervous, and just kept very, very small. It kept itself very small. So we went in, we bought the only thing we could at that time, which was some peas and some juice, and that was really our breakfast. And so we took him out and just started walking away. We were just walking away, and it was a part of the road that was still kind of forested. It wasn't a very busy road at that point. And we happened to glance back, and we see that the dog was walking behind us, but still very, very nervous looking. And we thought, we just said, shoot, go back. We don't need a dog walking with us, just go back. But it kind of ran away a little bit, but then kept coming back. And we kept walking, and it kept following us. And we thought, that's not good. It seemed like a beautiful romantic idea, walking, two pilgrims with a dog. It seems beautiful, but it's not, because we knew we were going to be on the open road. And we're not on paths, we're not on trail, and that dog is a danger to itself as much as it is to us and to the drivers. And so we're trying to shoo it away, and nothing is happening. We thought, okay, well, just leave it alone, it will figure itself out. And when we turned around to kind of glance at one point, we saw that it was eating excrement, is probably the more polite word. And we thought, that's beyond disgusting. We can't just let that. So we kept saying, come on. And she was just still nervously looking at us. Okay, take out the cookies. That's the only thing that we had. So we took out the cookies, and we said, come on, just trying to entice it over with a cookie. Come on, get the cookie. So eventually she came over And we're speaking to her in English, thinking, of course she understands us. It's a Turkish dog. She understands what we're saying. We're holding out the cookies, and she eventually, again, very small, very nervous, the tail tucked between its legs, and she reaches out very gently, and she takes the cookie. And then she eats the cookie, and the whole time she's looking at us. So she ate the one cookie, and then we said, okay, let's give her another cookie. So we gave her another cookie. We added that as well, and she kept eating. Hello, Dale. I just want to officially welcome you to the call.
Thank you. I was trying to get you on my iPad. I think that's the problem I was having.
Okay. Well, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you for joining. So we enticed this stray dog that we had it had found us with some cookies to stop eating the excrement and come eat the cookies, and it did, and it was delighted. And it started wagging its tail. And we thought, okay, well, it's not eating that anymore, so let's just, now shoot. Again, shoot. And it wouldn't. And so we thought, well, we can't keep delaying our time. It's getting hotter with every minute that we're spending here. Let's just get onto the main road that we have to get to, and I'm sure the roads and the traffic will scare her off. And so that's what we did. We headed straight to the main road that we needed to get to. We started walking. It was a fast 2-lane road. It was a main road connecting 2 towns that we needed to get to. We're walking on the side of the road, and there's a big field between on one side of us. And the dog in the beginning actually stayed in between us. It was trying to stay in between us. We kept thinking, this is ridiculous. There's no way to get rid of this dog. And then when the traffic came, we thought, okay, this is definitely going to scare her. And it did for a while. She went out into the field. She went to the field. We kept walking on the road, but she kept us within eyeshot. And she stayed with us, walking the whole way. And as we were walking, and as the sun was beating down on us, we were thinking, oh, it's getting really hot. That poor dog, it was frothing at the mouth. Its tongue was hanging out, and we thought, well, now what do we do? We only had 2 bottles of water between us, those little tiny bottles, the 500 mils or whatever you call them, the little ones. And so it's our precious reserves, and we don't know what there is between now and what's waiting for us. And we still have a good 20 kilometers to go. So we thought, okay, we can't just let it suffer here. So I opened up my bottle of water, and I just let her drink from my bottle of water, leaving us just 1 bottle between Alberto and I to do us until we got to where we needed to get. And that poor thing just lapped it up. And of course, now we had, between the cookies and the water, we had a loyal friend. There was no way she was leaving us now. And so we decided, well, there's no way to get rid of her. We might as well just let her kind of tag along. We can't be responsible for her. She obviously is a smart dog, because she knows when to get off the road. She knows how to avoid traffic. She knows how to look after herself. So I was like, okay, she's just another Pilgrim dog that's going to join us. And we decided to give her a name. She was our Pilgrim dog now. And we decided, and Concha is the Spanish word for shell, which is where we had found her, at the Shell gas station. To Concha. And so Concha joined us the first day. And the first day it wasn't so bad, because when we arrived at the town, it happened to be a town where there was nowhere to sleep, but there was a big along the beach, and that's what we did. And so that wasn't a problem. We got there. We got a lot of strange looks because people were very nervous, understandably, around a dog that had, scabs and things like this. But what we did that night, because we were at the beach, we kind of enticed her into the water. So she was in the water. She was frolicking in the water a little bit, and she got cleaned off a little, so she looked a little bit more kind of presentable. She was coming closer to us. She was kind of, rubbing herself against our legs, and I was still nervous to touch her. They didn't know what this dog had. And so she was coming closer, and I could feel that she wanted kind of to be touched, and I simply, I couldn't do it that first day. And so the first day went okay. The second day we hit the road again, and our next stop, we ended up being at a campsite. But this campsite, they had cabins. And as soon as the owner saw the dog that we had, and the guests started kind of looking at this dog, he said, I'm really sorry, but, this dog can't stay. And we said, hey, we'd love for you to take care of it. So it's not our dog. She just found us. And he said, well, strays are very common here. I'm sure she's a very intelligent dog. If you want, I can take her and drive her away so that she won't be with you anymore. And would you believe Alberto and I just stopped and thought, well, let me think about that for a minute. There was something, even though it would only been a day, like 2 days of walking with this dog, a strange kind of relationship and bond had formed with that dog. And this stray that just seemed to have such will. And we thought, well, let me think about it. And then, Alberto and I talked about it. It's like, it's kind of neat having this dog with us because she obviously doesn't need us. She can take care of herself. But she can't because, we're going to run into this every place that we stop at, every place we sleep. They're going to say to us, this dog is not allowed. And so we said to the gentleman, okay, go ahead, drive her off. And it's like a scene out of a movie. It was so heartbreaking. He enticed her in with some cookies into the back seat. She got into the back seat. She was very obedient. She went into the back, and she sat in the back, and she looked up over, the back seat, and she was looking at us, and those big eyes are looking at us, and she's confused, and we're like going, are we doing the right thing? It's like, yes, we're doing the right thing. And he drove her away. And we sat kind of for a while reflecting if, okay, we know we've done the right thing, but boy, this was a hard decision to make. And we sit for a while. The owner returns. The owner of the place returns from his car, and he sees kind of our angst, and he says, "Don't worry, she's going to be okay. She's obviously a very capable little dog." We said, "Okay," and we just sat and we're doing whatever we were doing, and we were, I'd say, about an hour later, we look up down the road there, and that dog Concha was racing towards us. She was like a little bullet running towards us. And we were all just, what? How did she find us? And the owner just looked at her in shock and said, how did she find us? I drove her like miles and miles away to a field like very far away from here. She could not have possibly found you, but this dog obviously did. But of course, from that time on, she was even more nervous. She was even more attached. Every time we moved, she was crying. Like, oh my God, what have we done here? What have we created? And there was actually one point where she was, I've never owned pets. And so it appeared to me that she was almost indignant. On the one hand, she was, a little bit afraid and clingy. But on the other hand, she was had that air of, how dare you to take me away? How dare you have somebody take me away like this? And she stayed with us that night, and on the beach, the owner let her run up and down the beach, and we had a conversation with him, and he said, and we all agreed, like, this is just can't happen. And he said to us, okay, how are we going to do this? We looked at our map, and we saw that there was a ferry crossing that we had to make to be able to cross over to continue our walk. And it was about maybe 20 kilometers away. And he said, we said, the only way that we can do this is to outrun her. There's no way we can outrun this dog, who's obviously very intelligent. We're going to have to take a bus to get to the ferry as quickly as we can, and then take a ferry across, because there's no way she can follow us that way. And he said to us, okay, the first bus is whatever, at 5:30 in the morning. We decided, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to just leave her there and let her fend for herself. And at 5:30 that morning, we got up. We packed up as quickly as we could, and we raced as far as our backpacks could carry us, all the way to the top of the road, got the road. But before we left, we kind of looked around to see if we could find her, and we saw her. She was running on the beach, up and down the beach, playing with some other dogs that she had found, being chased, and looking so happy. And we thought, perfect. This is exactly how we wanted to leave her. So we raced to the bus. The bus came almost immediately. We took the bus, got to the ferry. It was like within half an hour we were on that ferry, and we crossed the ferry to our next destination to continue our walking. And Concha, we don't know what happened to Concha. We imagine that she continued to live well and to be the survivor that she was. And the last image that we have of her is of that little dog just running up and down and totally free and totally happy on that beach in Turkey. So this is my dog story, Concha, our pilgrim dog that we think of occasionally. Thanks for listening. So, who here has a story to tell? Who has a dog story that they want to, or any kind of an animal experience that they want to share? No one? Okay, well, while you're thinking about it, I'm going to check because I do believe we have one more person who is trying to join us. I'm just going to take one quick look. Nope, this is everyone. Okay, I thought I heard someone. Alrighty. Does anybody have a story that they want to tell?
Well, it's not really a story, but walking in sort of rural or urban areas, I come across a lot of pets, and frequently I'll find when I'm walking along the river a dog that belongs to somebody, but the owner is quite happy to let the dog roam around. And I've had dogs in the past, so there's a rapport develops very quickly with the animal, and they walk with me all the way out to one end of town, and then take off and come back, and they seem quite happy. And I've even had the same thing with cats. It's just they warm up, they recognize you, they're looking for something friendly, unthreatening, and they like to play. And that's usually how I approach a pet. Is that by and large they are friendly. Not too often you come across one that's ill, like rabid almost.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because I know that on the Camino, those of us who walked, many years ago, the only book that was available back then was Shirley MacLaine's book, My Camino.
Yes.
And anyone who's read that book got a terror.
Got scared.
Before they even got to the Camino of the experience of the rabid dogs in Ponce-Vedon. So I had that same terror. I had that same fear when I arrived, and it wasn't even my fear; it was hers. And there were no rabid dogs. There were, of course, there were dogs that are loose on the Camino even then, but certainly nothing like she had described. So, so for those who are going on the Camino, it's okay. It's going to be okay. You're not going to find rabid dogs running around wild in packs and anywhere along the Camino. Really, it's a very safe place. Lori, is there anything that you wanted to share?
Well, Mony, I walked the last part of the Camino Portuguese, and I did hear a lot of dogs barking in the background at one point, and they sounded like a wild pack of dogs.
Yeah.
But I did pass through a lot of small farms, and most of them had watchdogs that were either tied up to a rope or they were just fenced in, and they were always barking as I would walk by or running back and forth along the fence, and I could tell they just wanted to be out and free and either attack me or play with me.
It's a fine line, eh?
Yeah, right. But and I love dogs. I have 2 dogs, and your story of rescuing that dog or feeding that dog cookies and having a friend for life reminds me of when this dog came to our doorstep about almost 9 years ago. She was frightened and skinny and hungry. We fed her sausage and cheese, and we took her in. She didn't have an owner, so we ended up rescuing this dog. And little did we know she was pregnant, and she had 5 puppies. So now we have 5. We had 5 puppies in our kitchen. We kept one of them just to so the mother would have company. Anyway, that's our rescue story. But along the Camino, I saw a lot of cattle and sheep and goats, and I would just stop and I was mesmerized by these animals. They were grazing and so happy and playing. I saw this man herding goats, and there was little tiny baby goats that were butting their heads together and running and romping in the grasses. It was the cutest thing.
Love it.
Yeah. So you gave me a really good idea. I think I'm going to have a blog post where I have all of my pictures of animals and videos of them in one post, because I did encounter a lot, pretty much every day.
Yeah, and we forget that along the Camino, a lot of the paths that people are walking are rural. And there are going to be, farms and farmers who have their dogs as watchdogs. So it's not, the Camino Frances maybe not as much anymore, because it's become so built up. But other Caminos, there's no question, you're walking through farm country. And the farmers have, the animals that they need to protect their farms. So it's not an unusual thing. But I've also learned that if you approach them angrily, you will get something to reckon with. And if you're just a little more calm, like anything, if you're just more calm and you're just walking calmly and you just don't give them any reason to be afraid, then they're not going to be afraid. Because we had a lot of dogs bark at us too, on all the way from the Camino and onto Jerusalem and all that stuff. So yeah, it's not an unusual thing. But that would be, I think, a very interesting post. And I do have some pictures of Concha. I will contribute some of my pictures as well.
Oh, I'd love to see her.
Concha. Okay. Well, Dale, is there something that you would like to share with us?
Well, I was just going to say, last year I did a Trans-American bicycle tour, so we went from coast to coast, and the dogs in Kentucky were always a worry for us because they're pretty vicious. A lot of the owners seem to use them to protect property, and what you said about, or one of you said about the sense of a dog kind of recognizing your feelings toward them. I kind of became the dog whisperer, and people would get my bike and me between the dog and them because I never had problems with them. I was able to talk them down. So
yeah,
they kind of sense your feelings too.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. By the way, I was always afraid of animals growing up. We never had animals in our home, and I always had a fear of, because I didn't know them, I didn't understand their reactions. But I learned that they definitely, as you were saying, Dale, they can feel your tension. They can feel your fear. And it became real work for me to walk and be calm, even though the dog was barking or whatever. I would stay very calm. I would just, imagine that I'm sending it a lot of love. All good here, all good, nothing to worry about, not trying to hurt you. So yeah, they feel it. They absolutely feel your energy. All right. Well, you know what? If no one else has anything to contribute, and I'll just check one last time to make sure we have no other people joining us today. I want to thank you all for sharing your stories of experiences with animals on your pilgrimage, and I look forward to seeing you next week, where we'll choose another topic on this Pilgrim Story Hour. Have a great day, everybody, and buen camino.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mony. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you.